Hello, my dear friends. Today we are going to learn the one skill that I think is the number one skill that is needed when you are struggling with implementing data structures. By implementing data structures, I mean you understand the concepts in data structures, but you are unable to translate it into code. Around 12 years ago, if you had told me that I can use any data structures and implement any data structures and algorithms with ease, I would have laughed at you. That is because I was that bad in data structures. It felt so hard for me to implement the basic data structure, that is, even the linked list. I would like to take you back to my college days. Around 12 years ago, around the same time, I was preparing for my exam. My exam was on data structures and algorithms. It was a practical exam. I was trying hard to study. I was literally studying. I was memorizing each and every line of code from the program. Implement linked list. That's how terrible I was in data structures. Fast forward to today. Now I'm confident that I can breeze through any data structure and algorithm implementation without any struggle. I can understand by reading the code how things get implemented. How is this possible? It is possible because I put in 12 years of effort and hard work in understanding this particular skill. No, it just took few minutes of thoughtful understanding of something so fundamental. This thing I call it as link manipulation in data structures. You might have heard about this, or you might have heard different names for this. You might not have heard about this. But having put enough thought into it, I am super confident that this one thing made me from a total terrible person in data structures to kind of a pro, or I would say a good programmer who can implement data structures without much struggle. Now, today you are going to learn this skill and you are going to become a good programmer who is able to breeze through data structure implementations. To do this, I have created my own game. It's just a child's play. I created a game which doesn't have a name. You can give your own name that you like. This game has three pieces, three things that are needed to play this game. The first thing is called a head hook. I call this hanger as a head hook. This has only one purpose. It has a hook which can attach something on it. And consider this is fit to the roof of your house. This is always there. Okay. The second thing is this particular ball. I call it as a node ball. This node ball has two features. It can hang on some hooks like this, or it has a next hook. I call this hook as next hook. This is the head hook and this is the next hook. This next hook can hang some other node. This keychain is a node. For this purpose, I don't have any other props with me. So this next hook can hang any other node on it. So the third thing is temporary hooks, or temp hooks, I would call it. Temp hooks can also hang any nodes with ease. So there are three things. There is the head hook, There is the node ball, which has a next hook in it. And the third thing is temp hooks, which is this pin. So, coming back to the rules of the game, a node can be hung on three different places. One is it can hang on a head hook. Second thing is it can hang on a temp hook like this, or a node can hang on the next hook of another node like this. These are the three ways a node can be hung. This is the first rule. The second rule is you cannot pick a node with your hand. For example, here you have the head hook on which the node ball is hanging. It's not appropriate to pick it like this. So what you have to do instead is use one of the temp hooks that you have, hook it to the node ball, and then release this head hook. So this is the most important rule of this game. If you try to unhook without a temp hook like this, or at least you must have a, this is another node, you must have at least another next hook on which it has to be hung and it can be released. If you do it manually like this, it's inappropriate. You will lose this node ball and the chain of node balls hanging below. Next rule is you can have as many temp hooks as you need. There is no restriction. You can have 100 of them in order to make something, make some connection or remove some connection, whatever, manipulate things. The final rule, the fourth rule is a hook can hang only one node. You can say, what is this? You can actually hang two nodes here, but it's the rule of the game. Consider you are playing a football game. You are saying you are capable of picking that football and run to the goalpost and keep it there and say that you have achieved, you have gained a goal. It is possible, but it is not the rule of the game. Here, the rule of the game is a hook can hold only one node, but a node can be hung on multiple hooks if you need. Here you see I have one temp hook as well as the head hook hung on which this node is hung. It is possible. These are the rules of this game. So the first rule is hang a node on either a head hook, or you can hang it on a next hook of another node, or you can hang it on a temporary hook or temp hook. The second thing is you cannot pick any node with your hand just like that. You have to use the temp hook in order to pick it, and you can use as many temp hooks as you need. The final rule is a node can be hung on two hooks or more hooks, maybe five hooks it can be hung on, but a hook can have only one node hung on it. So these are the rules of the game. It's not as complicated. Since I am listing it down one by one, it might feel a little tiresome, but it will go away when you start playing this wonderful game. Now, we can play this game. First, the head hook is attached to the roof of the house. You just consider. Now, I am going to build the chain of nodes. So the first node ball, I shouldn't take it like this, as you already know. I am just picking this node ball using this temp hook, and then I am placing this node ball to this head hook. So this head hook has this node ball now. Now I pick another node ball using the temp hook, and I am hanging it on the next hook on the first node. Now head hook is here, head hook hangs the first node, and the first node's next hook hangs the second node. Now I am hanging the third node. I cannot do it with hands. I am playing based on the rules. So I am hanging the third node to the second node's next hook. So now you can see three node chains here. Now, what if you want to remove these three nodes? The third node. What if you want to remove the third node? Use the stem hook and just remove it like this. It's so easy. What if you want to remove the second node instead of the third node? You have this stem hook. You just use this hook to temporarily hold this chain, and then use the next hook of the node 2, node 1 to hang the third hook. Now you can see two hooks are there. Now I want to remove the second node. So you just remove this second node's next hook. Now you have the first node and the third node attached. The second node is with me. I can throw it away if I don't want. So this is the game. This is the game plan. If you want to remove this chain and you just want to have the third node alone in this chain, you hook the temp hook onto the first node, remove the head node from here, now hook onto the third node, and then remove this next node of the first node. Now you have only one node, that is the third node in this chain. So this is the game. It felt a little tiresome because the nodes are not real nodes. I think you understood the game well. Now we can move on to the next section where I am going to translate this game into something which is a diagrammatic representation, which we call as data structure concepts. Next, we can move on to the whiteboard to understand this thing. Now I have the whiteboard ready with me in order to show you the diagrammatic representation of this game, so that you don't need the prompts to play the game, but you can just draw it up. First, sorry for my terrible handwriting, but I can show you with my mundane diagrams the same game. There are three pieces in this game, as I told you earlier. The head hook, which I call just as head, or the head reference. Call it the head reference. The second thing is the node ball. Here we call it just the node. The third thing here is the temporary hooks or the temp hooks. Here we call it as temp reference. How do you represent each of these things diagrammatically? A head hook can be drawn like this. This is a head hook, I'd say. A node ball can be drawn as a ball with the next hook. This is the node ball. Third thing is a temp reference. This is also, this is the temp reference. Now going to the rules of the game. As I told you earlier, there are four rules of this game. The first rule is a node can be hung on either a head hook, a head reference, or a temp reference, or the next reference of a node. So, the rule number one is either a node can hang on a head reference or it can hang on a temp reference or it can hang on the next reference of another node. Here you see node n1's next reference is pointing to node n2. The second rule of the game is you shouldn't pick a node with your hands manually. You can just use a temp hook to pick it. Similarly, if you have a chain like this, n1 followed by n2 followed by n3, you cannot just, if you want to remove node 1 from this, you cannot just remove this pointing of the head node. You cannot do it. First you have to point a temp node to this n1, then you remove the reference of the head to the n1. Now you have removed n1 chain successfully. If you want to point, you want to just remove the n1 from this chain, then you can just point this head node to n2 and remove this reference of n1 and throw this away, throw this temp and this n1 away. This is how you can do. The third rule is you can use as many temps as possible. The last and the final rule is a node can be hung on multiple hooks or multiple references like head reference, next reference, and temp reference. But a single reference cannot hold multiple nodes. Here, for example, there is a node n, both head and temp can hang this node n, but it is not possible for temp to hold n1 and n2. This is wrong and this is right. So these are the four rules of this game. Next we shall play the game. So how do you play this game? You can try different things. So, as I showed you with the props, I will show the same example here. So, I have a head here. If I want to create and hang a new node n1, I can just hang it here without any problem, because there is always the hook that is there. I can just hang it because it's a new node. I don't want a temp hook in order to pick this and place it here. If you want, you can use a temp hook also, not at all a problem. Here it has a next hook, so here I can hang a new node n2. This also has a hook that is just dangling in the air. I can hook another new node n3 here. So here there is nothing. Okay, so you have three nodes. Now consider you want to remove the node n2 from this chain. How will you do it? You cannot remove it manually. You have to use a temp hook. Why do you use a temp hook? Otherwise, this n2 node, if you remove, it will fall off and you don't have access to that n2 node. So you have a temporary hook or the temp reference pointing to this node. Now you can gradually remove this reference from here. It's just pointing to the air. Now you don't want to remove the whole chain, you just want to remove the node n2. You should not remove n3. So what will you do? You just point this next reference of n1 to n3. Now you are free to remove this reference n2. Now you have this n2 out of this chain, but you have the temp hook which is holding it intact. You can throw away this and you have the chain which has n1 and n3. This is the game. In order for you to become an expert in link manipulation, you just try complex things with this game. You can try to attach it into a circular loop. You can try to attach multiple chains together and see what happens. But always follow these four rules. If you fail to follow these rules, you cannot translate this to a data structure concept. You can also try out trees. Trees, as you know, each node ball will have a left hook and a right hook. You can play around with multiple nodes, tree nodes, and you can create a huge tree and you can rotate the trees around and you can play around with it. So this is the concept. Next thing is we will translate this to code. I am going to use a simple pseudocode, or you can say it is a version of Java or C or something, but it is generic for all the languages. If you use a language such as Python, which doesn't define a data structure, a data type, it's okay. You can translate it very easily. So now we will see the game pieces. As you know, there are three pieces to this game. One is head reference, which is a reference of a node. So the data type is node head. This is one prop that we have used. The second piece of the game is a node structure itself, a node object. Node object n1 is nothing but it is a class which has maybe just a number, okay, n, and it has a reference to the next node, which is next reference. As you have seen here, this is the next reference of n1. So this is just the name. Instead of the name, you can have some value. The third piece of the game is a temp reference. Temp reference is also a node reference. That's all. These are the three pieces of this game when it comes to actual program. The second thing is we will see the rules of the game. It might be slightly boring because I am repeating the rules of the game again and again, but it's worth it, believe me. The first rule of the game is a node can be hung on a head hook or a next hook of another node or temp hook. So here a node, say n1, just I am creating a node object. This n1 can be hung on a head node, head reference, or a temp hook can hang a, or a temp reference can refer a node n1, or there can be a node n2 you have to create a new node and you can point n1's next to the new node n2, or the other way, whichever way you like. So here the head is pointing towards n1 and n1 is pointing towards n2. Also temp is pointing here. Okay, just for our understanding we have done. So now we can remove temp. This is not needed in our case right now. The second rule of the game is you cannot manually remove a node. You have to use temp hook instead. You cannot just, in order to remove n1, you cannot just remove this reference and make it null. What will happen is this whole chain is lost. You don't want n2 to be lost, you want only n1 to be deleted. So in that case, what you will do, like here, you create a temp, point it towards n1, then remove this head and point it towards n2. So how can we do it programmatically? So temp equal to n1 head, which was already pointing towards n1, now will start to point to n2, and you can remove this reference if you want. n1 dot next will point to null, so it is pointing towards nothing. So this is separate from the chain. Head is pointing towards n2, here temp is pointing towards n2. There is no link between this chain. Now you can throw away this part. if you want. So the third rule of the game is you can use as many temps as possible or as needed. Temp 1, temp 2, etc. The fourth rule of the game is a node can be referenced by any number of hooks, but a hook can reference only one node. Like the thing I have told you, a node can be referenced by any number. It can be head and temp, but a temp cannot point to two nodes. It can have only one connection. So this is the fourth rule. Next, we will see this in action. We can play the game using code. So this node class is already there for your reference. So now I am starting to write a program, but a snippet of a program. Node head is there. This is the start of the linked list or the head node, or it is the head reference which points to the top node of the linked list. Node n1, node n2, and node n3. Now you are going to make a chain of 3 nodes like this. So head will point towards node 1, node 1's next will point towards node 2, node 2's next will point towards node 3. So how to do this? The same way as you draw the diagram. Head will point towards n1, n1's next will point towards n2, n2's next will point towards n3. n3's next is null, so you need not change it. Now you have this link accomplished. Next thing is you want to remove the node n2. What will you do? You will create a temp reference. This temp reference will hold n2 for some time because it's a temporary reference. Now what you have to do, you have to just remove n2. So n1's next reference have to be changed to n3. Currently it was n2. Now we are changing the next reference to n3. And if you want to clean up the code, n2's next reference equal to null. This doesn't matter in coding. Even if you do it, there is nothing wrong in it. You just remove this reference. Even if you have it, it is a separate list. So this part is separate. Now you can do anything with your n2 without changing anything in the chain. That is head followed by n1 followed by n3. This is the chain. Now this is a separate chain, temp, which is pointing towards n2. So now you have n2 in temp. If you want to delete it, if your language supports that, you can delete, or you can just use it for some other manipulation if you need it. This is the programmatic version of the game. You can use this game to do complex things. You can try out complex things like trees or graphs, things like that. And you become very comfortable with link manipulation. You are just manipulating the links. That's all what we are trying to do here. If you become comfortable with it, it is just one-on-one translation from diagram to code. You can see here. Finally, the main thing that you have to keep in mind is the four rules of the game. The main rule that I would consider is a node cannot be removed manually. It has to be using a temp hook or some other next hook or a head hook. Using that only you can remove. You cannot just remove the link. That is the main rule of the game, and you can use as many temps as you want. There is nothing wrong in it. It's just a variable. It doesn't affect your algorithmic complexity for that matter. We can see algorithmic complexity in another video. So what you have to do is practice as many complex links as you want. You can rotate trees, you can create a circular list, you can merge 5 lists together at different points and then use it, do it diagrammatically. Don't want to use prompts, it's hard for you to create prompts. You just imagine prompts, because that link going away is more visualizable in using a prompt. So you can use it in diagram and then you can directly translate it to code one on one. I'm sure you will become super confident if you follow this game, and if you play this game enough, you will come to ease with understanding data structure manipulations, data structure implementations, and you will be able to read the code of implementation of complex data structures without much difficulty. With this, and one thing to notice, it's just a game, it's fun. Play and become proficient in this. Hey friend, are you still watching the video? Then I would like to give you a gift. I have created a free guide that breaks down the most common data structure and algorithm patterns. Instead of telling you how an algorithm works, this guide tells you when to use it. Do you find yourself wondering which data structure or algorithm to use in a particular situation? Then this guide is definitely for you. Grab the guide by clicking the link in the description. Until we meet the next time, this is Shivakumar aka Algo Shiva signing off. Bye.